the Marines and why you joined the Marines.
My name is Paul Morgeau. I am a junior. I joined the Marines back in January of 1953. Now, the story behind that is I went to the Navy recruiter to join there first because my dad, my uncle were Navy. And I didn't know much about the military at all. But then they were filled up, so I went to the Marine recruiter, and there was an opening in the Marine wing there, flying. So I went there. I signed up in January of '53. And 4 months later, I got my letter of induction into the Army, and I had to go take a physical, so I opted to stay in the Marine Corps, and I went into the Marine Corps. So that's how I got into the Marine Corps.
And then the Curtis.
The Curtis was another thing. I went through boot camp in San Diego with many of the people that Marines that are aboard that. Then afterwards, I went, and when I left boot camp, I was given orders to Sea School, which is for Sea Marines. And in the interim, I went up to Camp Pendleton for advanced military training, advanced infantry training. And then when I was through with that, I came down and commenced Sea School. Sea School was really a place where you did an awful lot of ironing of clothes and everything else, shining shoes, and it was to prepare you to go aboard ship, to become security guards, become whatever, ceremonies, whatever. And so you had to really be squared away. And we were all handpicked to go on there too. So when it was time, when I graduated, I had orders to Japan to be an admiral's orderly. Well, as I was taking all of those ironed shorts and shirts and all that out of my footlocker and my locker and stuffing them into my sea bag, thinking I'm not going to be doing a lot of ironing or pressing for a while, one of the sergeants that was assigned to the Curtis, along with a lot of friends I went to school there with, said, "Morgeau, you're not going anywhere. You're coming aboard the Curtis." So I went aboard the Curtis. That was not my choice.
What was your first impression of the Curtis?
Well, I didn't know much about it. The Curtis was a very secret ship. We were asked to, I don't remember if we were asked to provide information for the FBI to investigate us, but they did a very thorough search on us, or investigation, prior to us going aboard ship. But, I mean, I went aboard the ship and I looked around and I wasn't really even impressed with the ship. Here was a ship that had been in Hawaii and took a kamikaze ship down the smokestack, I understand. It really had no significance other than picking up a seaplane out of the water, put it on deck and repair it and put it back in the water again. But it wasn't a very impressive ship at all.
Describe it to me a little bit, actually. Now I'm kind of curious.
Mm-hmm. A little bit about what?
Describe the ship.
Like, why was it impressive?
Well, because here it was a seaplane tender. And why do Marines go aboard seaplane tenders? We didn't go through all of that sea school to shine and press our clothes, spit shine our shoes, shine our bills on it. We usually have about 4 or 5 pairs of shoes, and it would take you a good 10 hours or better to shine a pair of shoes. I thought, well, what the world are we doing? So that was it. I didn't know. That was a strange ship for a Marine to be on. We generally went aboard aircraft carriers, and we generally went aboard cruisers. But we didn't go aboard seaplane tenders. And of course, we didn't know what we were going to do, so we were all puzzled to begin with.
Describe the ship as best you can to me. Like, what did it look like?
Well, the ship was, it looked like most other ships. From the forward part of the ship to almost the aft end, the back of the ship. It was cut off from about 3 decks up and was squared off, and there were big doors where they would could bring a or plane in there and work on it just like a hangar. And then the back part was flat, and there was a big crane on the back, which generally picked up the plane, put it on the flat deck, and then it was pushed into the hangar.
Any particular area of the ship that you thought was at least kind of interesting?
No, there wasn't. It was a strange ship, and I went aboard it because I had to.
That's perfect. that's gonna be great. We're gonna use that.
Yeah.
All right. So, what was life like on the Curtis? And by that I mean, who are your friends? What did you guys do for fun? That sort of thing.
Well, I don't remember who all my friends were. We just kind of went. I had a car there, so I had a lot of friends. If I didn't go on Liberty, someone would borrow my car and take off. And then one time when we left San Diego and went up to San Francisco to have a flight deck put on the front for helicopters, one of my shipmates, a Marine, had his family here and asked if he could drive my car up there. And I said, sure. That way I'll have transportation there, and so will everyone else. So we took it up. He took it up to San Francisco, and then I was able to take it out on Liberty and have a lot of good fun. And most of the, most of the individuals that were my friends were the lower ranks, because I was a private first class at the time. And Bobby Borman and John that just left here. John was a good friend. Charlie Provo was a nice friend. He's a psychologist now in Chicago. And Gene Pratt is kind of like a farmer back in Iowa. And another gentleman, Gene Whitford, was a friend of mine prior to going aboard, and then he served with me later on when I went back into the Marine Corps after going through college. But generally the lower enlisted guys, we would go out and drink. We'd go out and have a good time. We'd go swimming. We'd go to the beach, whatever. Go to the bars, try to pick up girls, let them pick us up. Once in a while we might go down to Tijuana and look around, Good old Marine, young Marine stuff.
Makes me want to be a Marine, actually.
Yeah, well, it's a lot of fun.
Was there one moment on the Curtis that you'll never forget? That one memory that you tell to your grandkids or your kids? Well, I imagine you've never told any of these to your kids because you can't. But now looking back, one thing that you guys did.
I think the one thing that I'll really think about is when we were anchored in the Bikini Atoll. We were allowed to go on Liberty, and a boat would take us over and drop us off. And we, of course, had a lot to drink there, but what we would do is we'd break open a coconut and put all kinds of booze in there and call it a Bikini Special. And boy, I'll tell you, one of those and you were laying flat on the sand. We really enjoyed ourselves when we went on the beach. Then there were sand crabs too, and those little things would get on your body and you'd have to go in and spray them off and everything else. Usually you think of sand crabs or crabs when you go into an unknown bathroom and you sit where someone else has and they make a deposit there and they're on you. Well, no, these are little sand crabs that crawl on the sand, that get on your body. And I was laying up on the deck one night trying to sleep, and gee whiz, So I had the next day get a damn spray can and spray those suckers off there. Yeah.
I heard that you cut those little coconuts open, and sometimes they actually come out.
Yeah. Well, we'd husk them and everything else, and then cut the top off, and then we'd have the coconut juice mixed in with our alcohol, and those were our drinks, a Bikini Special, and that was our rum and whatever we had there. We put it together. We were having fun.
That's gonna have to go in this. I'd love to recreate that. That would be fun. So, tell me a little about this. This is kind of a little off subject, but and I'm just curious. What is that deal? What is this UFO? that they're talking about?
Well, I don't know. I never saw a UFO, and I don't pretend to know anything about it. But I was speaking to one of my good friends, Dave Metzler, who I see all the time now, and he's one of the ones that I primarily email to. He was an admiral's orderly, and of course, when you're with the admiral and their high-ranking officers, you hear a lot of things that most of us that were down below didn't, because we didn't have the need to know. They had the need to know, so and they were their orderlies, so they were right there with them when they were talking, and things like that. And he tells me that he saw something, a light, go past the ship one night. I think as we were anchored probably somewhere. And that's all I know of it.
Okay, all right. What were some of the ramifications of telling people what you were doing?
Well, we couldn't tell anyone anything because, of course, if you told anyone that what you were doing and you were not supposed to, you could be court-martialed. You could be thrown in jail. You could be booted out of the Marine Corps. Those are the ramifications.
What was the most difficult part of it? I mean, I'm sure that there was times where you wanted to tell your wife, or even your parents, or anybody, but you couldn't. I mean, what, in your opinion, was the most difficult part about not being?
Well, we were good Marines. We were told that we could not tell them, and we didn't. So all of the talking that we did was between each other, between our friends. So we reinforced each other by talking with your friends aboard ship. And no, you didn't think about telling anyone else. You didn't write anything in letters. You were told this was a very secret operation, and it's not to be made known to the public, so keep it to yourself. Keep it to your friends. Keep it on the ship, and good Marines do that.
Later on, though, your children, do your children have any problems later on as a result of?
Yeah, my daughter and her son have ADD, which is one of the symptoms from overexposure to radiation. I have, no, that's about the only thing that I can recall. And there's not many things wrong with me. I have had little spots on my face and in my ear and on my back that were thought to be cancerous, and they took it out and they were fine. So.
Okay. So, the bomb, and if you wouldn't mind walking me through the day that this thing went off, because you knew that you were gonna blow up. And by the bomb, I'm talking about Bravo shot. If you wouldn't mind walking me through the day, from the moment that you woke up, to the moment that you went out on deck, and the 3, 2, 1, the whole thing, your emotions, everything that happened.
Well, on the day that Bravo went off, I was with a detail that was sent down to Eniwetok from the Bikini Atoll, which was going to be ground zero. We were down there to pick up the next one. And of course, we loaded that aboard an LST, which is one of those that open in the front and the ramp comes down. And when it goes on the water, it goes just like that. But anyway, we were down there for that one. So we waited, and we got to drink a lot of beer while we were there, and we got to be around the Hawaiians and all that, and all the workers, and we got to go over and eat the good meal of this Holmes and McCarver Builders, rather than ship's food. But once one person says the ship's food's not good, then every enlisted has got to say it's not good, for the same reason. But it's good food. There's a lot of food there. There's all kinds of things to eat. But we were sent down there, and we had to stay a couple extra days because the weather at impact there, or at the ground zero, was not good, and it was not favorable of a detonation. So what we did was we waited a couple days, and then on the morning of the shot, we were getting ready to go aboard the LST, and it was as black as night. I mean, you couldn't see a thing. And all of a sudden, that flash went off. We were over 200 miles from ground zero. And where I was, it was daylight. It was like these lights on here. It was like high noon. And then, shortly after the light subsided, then the mushroom went up. And that was Bravo. Okay, and we, of course, I think picked up Romeo or another one that was almost as big as Bravo. Bravo was scheduled to be, they thought it was going to be a 6 megaton, and it turned out to be a 15 megaton. And that's a lot of difference. But that's where I was. I saw that thing go off. I was with 4 other Marines, and we were just unbelievable. It could not believe it. How could anything be so big, so powerful? And that probably kept us from going into World War III, too, when the Russians heard about it and saw it.
That was going to be my next question, actually.
Yeah, because every once in a while you could detect that there were subs in the area, and you knew they were Russians.
Tell me about that moment that the sub was, that particular, the one moment that everybody talks about the submarine tailing you guys in the Bikini Atoll.
Well, we got a little concerned aboard ship because we didn't know why the submarine was. Well, we knew that the submarine was there probably to witness the detonation, but we didn't know what else they were there for. As far as we know, it could have been sent a torpedo at us and sunk us or whatever and kept us from doing more. But we just heard about it. It was kind of grapevine. Those guys that stood watch up on the bridge, those are the guys that were kind of privy from the admirals and the captain of what was going on. And, of course, we'd all talk about it.
At that time, were you kind of freaked out about it, or was it just...
No, I wasn't freaked out about it. We had several destroyers that formed a perimeter around us. And, that was the duty of a destroyer. If a torpedo comes towards a ship, then the destroyers are supposed to come up and take the impact of it. And of course, we had the admiral and his staff aboard, so the admiral's not going to go down. Those destroyers will go down first. Rank has its privileges.
So, I lost my train of thought here. The bomb. Trying to describe the magnitude of this, the size of it, and something so big and so powerful to someone that knows nothing about nuclear bombs other than what he's seen in the movies. What was it like?
Well, I'll tell you what. We would sit on the aft end of the ship, on the flat area, whenever a bomb was detonated. And some of the sergeants would get glasses, and so would the ship's staff. But us lower-ranking individuals, we didn't get glasses. So it was our job then to bury our arms, turn away and bury our head into our arms and all that. And when that initial flash went off, if you looked at it, you could have lost your sight. When that went off, we saw right through our bodies like an X-ray. Unbelievable. And a couple guys even told me that when they were down inside of the ship, inside of the skin of the ship, and the ships are usually, got quite a bit of skin on the side. They're pretty thick. They said they saw the flash too. Now that's what they tell me. I was never below at that particular time. But this thing would go off. It was so bright. And then it just came up and it was just a big ball of fire. And then all of a sudden it would go totally up in the air and it would spread out. And one of the orderlies told me that the admiral saw that. He said, "My God, we got to get out of here." So then the ship, in about 20 to 24 miles, which is close, damn close to anything like that, it pulls our ship out and we ditty out of there, get the hell out of there. And then the ship has a sprinkler system on it. So we head into the wind, you turn off all the air conditioning to all the troops below. And we've got to remain like that until they get out there with the Geiger counters sporadically to check and see what how much radiation we have on the ship. Now, if they go up there and there's still signs of it, they come down. We still keep the fans, the air conditioning off, and then they'll go back up again in their suits and everything else, and they'll test it again. But that could go on for a couple hours or better before they got the total ship clear of any radiation.
If you had the chance, would you go back in time and watch it again?
Certainly, because this time I can expect what's going on. I know what's going on. And of course, we couldn't go out And I think McKinsey one time told me that if people tried to get out for one reason or another, started to panic, then our orders as Marine sentries to shoot them. I don't, you know.
I've heard some of the other guys talk about when the bomb went off, the feeling was of panic and, oh my God, they miscalculated, we're going to die, or this is just business as usual. And it's been just a wide range of reactions to when it went off. But the psychological emotions that they were feeling at the time, what was yours?
Oh, I imagine we all got up and just stood there and said, "My God, what the hell was that?" And you know, then the sonic boom comes, hits the ship, and it's so damn loud and all that. And here, you know, then the water even rolls up towards you, and you got to get out of there. I don't know how big those waves would have got, but it doesn't take it very long from a blast that size to get your ship, especially when we're 24 miles away. That's probably, I think we were the closest ship every time because the Admiral was aboard our ship.
Wow. Alrighty.
Yeah, death was death was a thought.
So you believe there was a little voice in the back of your head that said, "Oh my God."
Oh my God. Oh yeah. Oh my God, we're dead. I didn't know they miscalculated. I didn't have any idea it was supposed to be a 6 megaton and turned out to be a 15. I wasn't privy to all that information. All I knew was this was a big son of a gun. And it was I think one of the first ones we ever detonated that I saw. So, you know, the initial shock was something else. After that, then we knew what to expect. And I think...
So, okay. We're almost finished here. What was the highlight of this reunion? I have to go off topic for a minute.
The friends I met, because we were all very, very compatible. We all had things in common. We probably all came from kind of the same background. Although I was almost half Indian. I was born on the reservation in Montana. I lived in some filthy areas and all that. But comradeship, absolutely. I mean, today we still meet, as you know. We love each other. We help each other. We're there.
To somebody who's not a Marine, if you're going to tell me what's the number one reason to become a Marine, and describe that brotherhood just a little bit more.
Well, ask a sailor, you know, or ask a soldier. You know, they say, well, my God, every time you Marines get together, you know, you start having fun, you have reunions, you forget about it, you know, you don't go back to things like that. We say baloney. You know, we were aboard ship for 2.5 years together in a compartment that most of us slept in, bunks 3 high. And that's tight. And you got a little small drawer underneath to put some of your gear. The rest of it, you got to store it. This was a small area. You had to get along. You helped clean up the space. You helped make everyone's rack. You helped the other guy. If they couldn't go to watch, you'd go take care of their watch for them. But we were so close-knit because we were just in an area by itself, and the things we went through, the ability to go ashore and have a good time on the beach, even though there wasn't anything higher than 7 feet above sea level, we had a good time.
I imagine that right now, and this is, I think this is what also compels me to the story, is it's been so long since you guys, or it's been so long you guys have spent your lives in secrecy that you haven't been able to say something. And now, when it finally comes your time, everybody is kind of so old, and of course the effects of radiation have really taken this toll on you guys as far as life expectancy.
That's right.
And so, how do you feel about when you come back to these things and you realize that some of these guys that you spent so much time with and you got so close with are gone?
Right. Well, I feel abandoned by our country sometimes, because we couldn't say anything for about 12 years after the detonation. Then they start opening this up, and made it available for the public. But all the people that were there, the Atomic Energy Commission people, all the bigwigs, the admirals, everyone else, most of those people are gone. Most of those people don't work for these organizations anymore. So we that were there have to go to the institutions like the Veterans Hospital and things like that. We have to fight our own battles because everybody that works there knew nothing of what we were doing. So we've got to, en masse, get together, go to our veterans hospitals, let them know the stories, give them the information and all that. No one else is there to even provide anything for us.
It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. And I really do, honestly, genuinely feel for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
I do. But, done. Yeah.